Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Soo, your East Oakland advocate. Well, this is March, and 10 years ago in 2014, I became homeless. And I'm going, in the last episode, in my introductory, I explained how a lot of people can avoid homelessness through planning ahead, namely a living trust or having a will in place. A living trust would be better than uh, a will because you have somebody who actually oversees this and it supervises uh, the distribution. Whereas if you do absolutely nothing, unfortunately, everything has to go through probate, and um, sometimes probate goes well, many times it doesn't. And I can talk about so many different examples of it not going well. My best friend up in Sacramento, his younger sister did exactly the same thing that my sister did. And it was a real sneaky way. I talk about it in a previous episode. But anyway, after I became homeless, I literally lost my home. I was on the street. This is my first night or first day living on the street, and I had already decided where I was going to go. It was just a matter of setting up, and so I knew a person who would hold my dog, Pandora, my AM staff, and the thing. I trusted this person with my dog because I knew my dog very well. So I didn't have any problem. And if he did something wrong, my dog would fix the situation because she wouldn't stick around and she would locate me. But anyway, first night was really cold. It was March. It wasn't raining, but it was cold. If you notice the past few nights here, this is March right now. But just like that 10 years ago, it was really freezing cold. Just didn't have the rain, and I slept on the cold dirt on the other side of these hedges. I put some boxes around me to kind of break that chilling wind. But let me tell you, all the clothes that I had on was not enough because the cold ground sucked any body heat that I was able to generate. It just took it right away. But the fortunate part was just a few feet away from me was one of Oakland's biggest dumping grounds at the end of 77th Avenue. And it literally spanned an area the entire width of the street and about 120 feet and was 3 feet deep in trash. And that was common for this. And the reason why I knew it was common and also that nobody was supervising this or watching this street was because for the previous 2 years, I had been walking all through the neighborhoods pre-scouting locations in the event that I ended up in the situation that I ended up. And let me tell you, there are a lot of vultures out there. When you're losing your home, the vultures come out and they will just pick your bones. I had that happen to me. This person, she claimed that she was a religious leader and that she was there to help the homeless and or about to be homeless. And so she took me in to my home. I had my dog at the time. And here's the thing. She was running a scam on me. And she was trying to she knew I had some money in backup, not so much in my pocket, but I had access to people with money. And so she was trying to get me to arrange for a $5,000 loan to her. And so I said, okay, I can do that. And I had a person all lined up. And then when I came back with the terms and everything, and they said, oh, no, we're not signing anything. You sign it and then you hand us the money. It's like, big scam. And so within hours of that, I said, no, I can't do that. If you're benefiting from the money, and so I'm not going to be left on the hook with just your word that you're going to pay it back. No, you're going to sign the paperwork and commit your ass, to that loan. Because I'm not putting my ass on the line, you know, to give you money and then you run off. No, that's not going to happen. So within the next day or two, they put me out, and that was March 1st. And so that's when I started living on the streets. And I'll tell you, it was very difficult. And it was the voices in your head that began to talk about how bad you are. You're a bad person. You plan poorly. And I mean, just a number of really negative things start rolling in when you're at your lowest point, and then the depression starts sitting in, and then more vultures start showing up, because there are people who try and sell you drugs. They try and make a friend of you to make you an addict. Essentially, is what it is. Is say, hey, I got something that'll make you feel better. Or the other thing is the sexual predators, and so how I took care of them was I just turned Pandora loose on them, and they never came back, because Pandora did enough damage to them where they couldn't come back. So on that alt note also, when thugs know that you have a very protective dog, you got to watch out for your dog also, because those people came back with guns and tried to shoot her. And if I hadn't had my gun and retaliated and shot them, they would have killed my dog and they would have killed me. And that was before all the guards and everything. That was with my 22. So my 22 pistol was very quiet, and so it's not going to trigger a lot of interest. And in fact, the gunshot sounds like a loud BB gun. But that's how I protected myself. And they never came back. And word gets around. That's one of the things, hey, that person at the end of the street there, they got a gun, they shot so-and-so, the other night. Yeah, that got out. And tell you what, a lot of people left me alone, because number one, at night, while I'm sleeping, my dog is patrolling. My dog, she was trained at the Department of Defense in the dog canine class, and so she was trained to be a protective guard dog. And a lot of people don't expect this little Amstaff. They see a pit bull and okay, that's a dangerous dog. But no, you have no idea how dangerous this dog is. When they're properly trained, I call her my four-legged piranha, because she took chunks out of you with every bite, and she meant business. I remember one of my stupid employees who challenged, what I had warned everybody: do not come within 10 feet of my truck. You come within 10 feet of my truck, you are risking your life, because my dog will attack. And this one person, people told him, don't go near that truck. Even my staff sergeant told that person, do not challenge that dog. That dog will fuck you up. And one day, all I heard was screaming and a lot of barking, because I had two dogs. I had Mary, who looked identical to Pandora, just bigger, but she wasn't a pit. And then Pandora, I mean, she's going to town on this person until I called her off. Yeah, and he had to go to the hospital, because she did a number on him. But nobody, after that, everybody said, yeah, we're not going to mess with that dog ever. And it was funny, because number one, Pandora did a pretty good number. She took him down. She had him on his back. She also had him by the arm and wrist. She had him right here, and she's showing my employee his arm in her mouth, And every time he moved or flexed a little bit, kind of like what I was taught in martial arts, especially Wing Chun, the sticky hands. And so she feels the muscle movements, and she can react. And her reaction was clamping down and exposing more teeth onto the flesh and digging more teeth into the flesh and staring right into the person's eyes directly. I mean, she's standing right on his chest, staring in his eyes, holding on his arm. He's screaming. And then I finally, called her off, give her the release command. She drops him and then walks off and sits down. And she just kept an eye on him. Needless to say, he learned a valuable lesson, and it was a good demonstration for everybody else on that work crew. And even, like I said, my staff sergeant, Big John, he warned that character, and it was just a hard-headed character. But my dog was protecting me for up until 2016, and she didn't allow anybody onto the block at night, period. And I heard people screaming, literally, "Somebody call your dog, call your dog, somebody call your dog." And the voice is getting dimmer. So I know that Pandora eventually will hit her threshold where she'll stop. And she does. Because how I know? Because the person stops screaming. And if Pandora had attacked him, there would be a lot more screaming. So when they stop making noise, I know that they've left the area and Pandora's holding a hard line. And that's how I was able to, number one, adapt to living outside, because I had that dog. I also was armed. Also, the survival training that I got, my SEER training, while I was in counterterrorism, and part of my special operations training, outdoor survival in pretty much any kind of setting, and especially urban settings. Urban setting, this is a piece of cake compared to many other settings. Probably the worst one is either doing a polar survival or a jungle survival. Those really test your skills with temperature involved. But the first year I had a lot of challenges. I also made a lot of friends. I first was homeless in March, and the first attack on me came just before the 4th of July, because I was actually in the hospital on the morning of the 4th of July. Because I was jumped by 3 characters who had the intent of killing me. How I know they had the intent of killing and robbing me was that they used a baseball bat. That's what this mark is here. That was 4 stitches. I took a glancing blow of a baseball bat to my head in that attack. And I was able to get my arms up enough where it absorbed a lot of the blow, but still it hit me here and bounced off, and I dropped to my knees, and I was I'll tell you what, I was covered in blood. And it was again my AM staff, Pandora, who came. They didn't see her because she's black color, and she came out of the dark and took out one. And I don't think you'll have kids, because that's one of her primary go-to kill spots, is the groin area, and her intent is to draw blood and to rip parts out. And I'm pretty sure she did a good job on that, because there was a lot of screaming and there was a lot of blood. Then also the 2 that were still on me, I took them out. One, I shattered his leg, once I got back to my feet, and the other one, I collapsed his larynx, and they were able to run off. But I was still pretty badly injured the next day when I was going to the hospital. One of the people that had been coming in the morning oh man, what happened to you? I said, well, I got attacked last night. I'm going to hospital to get some stitches. And I already knew what was needed because of my medical training from uh, counterterrorism and how to deal with that. I just didn't have the equipment. So I went to hospital, got that all stitched up, 4 stitches, just like I told the doctor. And one of the most interesting thing is that they were really trying to keep me there for whatever reason. They were trying to numb up the area. They said, we're going to put an injection in there, numb up the area, and it's going to take about 20 minutes for it to take effect. I told the doctor, screw that, just stitch me up, and I want to get on my way. And he said, yeah, it's going to hurt. I said, no, it's not going to hurt. I said, I'll tell you why it's not going to hurt. You see all those, the ends of the flesh that's hanging open? There's no nerve endings. I have no feeling in there, period. And I said, just stick a needle in there, stitch me up so I can start my day. And so I'll tell you what, it scared the doctor. There were 2 nurses also there, and first time that they put the first stitch in there, and they looked at me and said, wow, you really aren't feeling anything, are you? I said, no, I feel a little tugging, and that's it. Just come on, 4 stitches. You got 3 more to go. And he said, and he's looking at me like, how did you know that it's going to take 4 stitches? And I said, look, I'm former military. Oh, okay. And I didn't even have to tell him. He just said, okay, former military. A lot of them have specialized training. So he just did that. I got back to life. That was the first attack. And shortly after that, they were caught. And they were from Antioch at the time. And they were using BART, the BART system, as their commute. They commute from Antioch to Oakland, commute on the crimes, do their crimes in East Oakland, jump right back on the Coliseum BART station, head back to home. Yeah, that's what criminals do. We have commuters, for criminals also. And that was just the first few months. Then I gained some friends because I was also going to Arroyo Viejo Park in East Oakland. And that was also where I would or not shower, that's where I would bathe. I would take a backpack with my hygiene stuff, a towel, some fresh clothes, and I literally used the waterway over there that ran through the park to take a bath, because there was an area near the rec hall underneath, and the water ran right through. I wasn't seen by anybody. My dog, she stood guard while I took my bath in there. The only time when it was really unpleasant was during the winter, because the water's really cold. I mean, I'll tell you what, I can tolerate a lot of pain and discomfort. Also a lot of cold water, because that's one of the things in special operations and special forces that you are trained to deal with, the cold. And so I was the only one that would take a bath down there that I'm aware of during the winter, and all my time that I was close by, and that was how I bathed. Wasn't my drinking water, because it wasn't safe to drink that water, but for bathing, that would be fine. But that's one of my resources there, at how I kept clean. And it was important to do that. And that brings me to my first friend, who I invited back to 77th Avenue. And it was one to help him, because he was sleeping there in the park, and we got to know each other through our conversations. He was martial arts, and he went by the name Sleepy, but his real name was Mike Comero. He was born here in Oakland, but his roots, his mother, all were from Louisiana, and hence Comero. He is a French last name. And Mike was into Taekwondo, and he was small. And so he got picked on a lot. He got bullied a lot because he was a small black male. And so he took up Taekwondo, and he's a fourth Dan in Taekwondo. And I said, well, that's pretty good. And so we started talking, and he asked me about Wing Chun and some of the different things that I knew. And there were things that I did that simply amazed him. How I literally would walk in front of him and he didn't see me. My invisibility energy. I literally made my energy disappear from his eyesight. And I mean, he was like, how did you do that? Because he's looking at one place. He saw me in one place, and then he turns his head. I'm in his line of view again. It's like, and then he looks back, and he's like, how'd you do that? And that I didn't do it just once. I did it several times to him, and it always amazed Sleepy about that. And so we talked about a lot of things, and one of the main things that really hurt Sleepy was his depression. And he wasn't well educated. He was educated. He got through high school, but he also lacked discipline in his life, and that's what came back to bite him. He had a child. He never married, so to speak. He had a common law wife. Son came out of that, and I met his son after Mike passed away, and his son looked exactly like Mike, just taller. And Mike, he was a shorter man. He was only about 5'4". His son was my height at 5'8", and so depression really set in on him. He lost his job, and he never recovered from that, and he left his family hanging. And there were so many different solutions to help him out of that situation, to help him with his depression. And then he literally drank himself to death with some of the worst alcohol, the malt liquors, the strongest malt liquors that were out there. And then he also was a heavy smoker. He literally died from heart congestion. It failed heart. By the time we were able to get him to the hospital, he was already in the throes of death, and very little could be done. The hospital wanted to keep him. They actually put him on some medication. It wasn't finalized yet. He literally walked out of the hospital and came back to the camp. He brought pills back. Somebody went to the hospital, got his prescription for him. I tried to make Mike take his medication, but you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. And then the other thing was, as soon as he got back, I already knew, the doctors had already told us, Mike cannot drink anymore if he intends to live. He cannot smoke anymore. What did Mike do? The moment he got back, he had a malt liquor in his hand already, and he was smoking when he arrived at my door. So I knew he wasn't going to be long for this world, and that was his choice. He was so sad, so depressed, and he was so defeated in life. But he was also one of the people that I depended upon early. One person that he dragged back, which was Muhammad from the park, who ended up being a real problem. And the reason why I was so strong at building the camp that I built at that time, to keep people like Muhammad from creating a criminal enterprise on my behalf, on my back. And by me standing my ground and also fighting for the way that I was running things in this camp, And it was tough. There were some real slimy characters. Muhammad was one of those. He brought more slimy characters. Then I had to deal with the slime and the trash of the Oakland streets, which are the street gangs, the Norteños, Sireños, uh, MS-13. Then we have the black gangs. Yeah, and I mean, it was endless. And then on top of that, we had the street hookers and pimps that tried to threaten me and scare me. Well, they didn't make it. Let me tell you, the pimps got fucked up. I didn't put up with them. They tried shooting me. It didn't work because I turned my dog loose on them as a distraction. Then I pull my gun. So we're going to get more into this in the coming episodes here, but that takes you up through the first year. That was my first year. I was literally fighting for survival on the streets with my hands, fists, dog, and my gun. And it's very shortly after I had to put my dog down, which is July 8th of 2016, because of old age. She had just gotten to a point where she was saying, put me down. I can't go on anymore. She was old and she had done her job, and she was now physically challenged, and it was hard to let go of her, but I had to, and I did. And it was shortly after that that real challenges begin, and that's where we're going to pick up in the next episode. Thanks for joining me on this. Hope this is showing you how difficult life is and how treacherous my sister was, because she knew that these were things that I was going to face, and the likelihood of death for me was 95% certain that I was going to die on the streets of Oakland, and she knew that. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be right back.